Hello my friends, and welcome to the Imagine Crafts YouTube channel. Katie here, and today I'm going to show you how to make these two Mother's Day cards using a couple of the On Trend StazOn ink pads. Let's jump in. So the colors I'll be using for my ink pads are Cherry Blossom and Bordeaux, and these are just a couple of the On Trend colors for 2020. And the stamps I'll be using are the Pretty Peonies, the Incredible Woman, and the Beautiful Flowers from Simon Says Stamp. The cardstock I'm going to be using, I pick up from cutcardstock.com. This particular one is an already made card base. They're actually A6, and so I will cut that down to an A2 size. What's cool about cut cardstock is they have like $1.99 sections, so you can get like things like this to use for card making, or if you need colored cardstock and stuff for $1.99. So next I'm going to be using the Curious Translucent Pearl Vellum. This also is from Cut Cardstock, and it's a heavier weight vellum, and it's pearl, so it's got like a metallic-y pearly finish to it, and it's pretty opaque. You can see my fingers through there a little bit. If you don't have this, probably not a lot of people do, you can use regular vellum. Just you want something that's a little bit heavier weight, I would go with at least a 48-pound, even a 65-pound if you can, because that's going to give you similar results, obviously without the pearlized finish, but it will give you similar results as far as opacity for the technique that we're going to be using. So we're going to use our Pretty Peonies background with the Cherry Blossom StazOn ink and stamp that onto that pearlized vellum. The StazOn will dry pretty quickly, but I actually let this dry a little bit longer than needed, because I found that the longer it sat on the vellum and really dried, it kind of melded into that vellum, and you almost couldn't tell which side was which. One obviously is a little bit more brighter than the other, so you can tell, but in the video it's harder to tell. So set that off to the side to dry. I'm going to stamp this piece of cardstock, which is a piece of the fog cardstock, which is just a soft gray, and this is for the inside of our card. So I'll stamp that with the Beautiful Flowers stamp in the Cherry Blossom, and then once that's done, I'll set that off to the side, and we'll bring our piece of vellum back in. So what we're doing, we've stamped our background stamp, and then we're going to flip that vellum over and stamp the Beautiful Flowers stamp on the back side. Okay, and we're going to stamp that in the Bordeaux, so we have a nice bold color on the back side of that vellum. And then we're going to flip it over and reverse it again. So we flipped our panel over. We've got our Bordeaux that we're stamping up on the Beautiful Flower stamp now, and once that's done, we will set that off to the side to dry. And then I'm going to show you one of the reasons that this technique is pretty cool, because sometimes when you stamp you get like extra ink and stuff like that, and here I'm going to show you some little extra splotches. They're very subtle, but they're there. And so when you flip this over, you don't see that. You see nothing but the detail of the stamp. And so I'm going to use some spray adhesive. And what's cool about this is that you actually you've brought the background stamp to the front. So even, you know what I mean? But you can't tell because it's kind of all melded into this vellum. It's pretty cool. So, at least for me. So here I'm going to take a couple of rulers to be able to line up my alphabet dies and spell out the word mom. Now off camera I do move the letters over to the left a little bit more to get some more of the flower in to the die cut. And then once I get that all die cut out, we'll start putting the card bases together. So here I'm using my On Point glue on the back of this panel, and I was a little worried because I wasn't sure how well the On Point glue was going to stick to that ruby metallic surface, and because it's very slick, which you can't really tell that in the video either, but it held beautifully. It really adhered well. You have to give it a little bit of extra time, but it worked out really, really nice. And I'm just doing some extra burnishing on those fine points of the M to make sure everything stays adhered down. Now I'm going to put in my centerpiece of my O so that everything will be lined up and we can get that eclipse look with the letters. And once I pop that letter O out, I'm going to start putting my letters together. So I have 3 layers of fog cardstock, and then I'm going to put the vellum piece over top. So that's going to be a total of 4 layers for each letter. And then once I get those added into their respective spot, excuse me, I will work on the outside sentiment. For the outside sentiment, I have a strip of fog cardstock that's about 1/4 inch wide, and I will stamp the Happy Mother's Day onto that, and then I'll trim those down and layer those up with another 4 strips of the fog cardstock to give that chipboard effect, versus using, I had extra little scraps, so it was better than using some foam to pop that up for the sentiment, and I thought that worked really, really nice. So here I'm just fiddling with my letters, making sure I don't have any adhesive that may have poked through, and then once I get that in, we'll move on to doing our sentiments. So here is the sentiment. We're going to use the Incredible Woman. We're going to use Happy Mother's Day from that stamp set, and we're also going to use the I Love You that's in there. And so here I'm just lining up my stamp. I do use the VersaFine Claire Chianti for my inside and outside sentiments. The Bordeaux was a little splotchy. It wasn't as crisp as I like the sentiments, so I switched up and went with the Chianti, which actually worked out well because it was able to tie in that ruby cardstock, which is a little bit more purpley. So that I like that. It worked out really, really nice. This is the inside panel. We're going to stamp the I Love You, again with the first VersaFine Claire and Chianti. I don't think the Chianti gets used enough in videos, so it was nice to be able to pull that out and where it worked well with the card base. I like that. Okay, so here I've got my layers of my sentiment. I'm just going to add that to the outside underneath that M, and that's going to wrap up this card. And then we're going to move on to my first card, which gave me the idea for this card. Okay, so here I actually had stopped at this point. I had already had all this done, the stamping, I had the die cutting done. I was like, I wonder what this will look like. And so I just started doing the video on that. And of course we got 2 cards, so it works out really nice. Now, again, use some spray adhesive on that panel, and now I'm going to layer up my fog cardstock with my letters, 3 layers, and then I've got my vellum over top of that. On Point glue's going on the back of this panel, and I will adhere that onto my ruby card base. And then the same thing, I did up my strips all at the same time for my Happy Mother's Day sentiment, and that will go in between the letters is where I put those. So now I'm just piecing in my die cut letters to get that eclipse look. And then I think I don't remember if I did the inside panel. The inside panel is the same on both of them, so I may not have, just because, and I strategically placed the glue on this particular sentiment strip because I didn't need it in between the letters. But that's going to finish up the cards for me today, guys. Here I'm just going to show you an up close. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell and select all notifications. That way you'll be notified each time a video has been uploaded. Links to products used in the video are in the description box below. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.